Hi, how you guys doing today? My name is Zach Bukowski, and I am doing a presentation for Imagination and Entrepreneurship 4663 over Ben and Jerry's ice cream. I chose this company due to my love of ice cream, and I've always looked up to how they created such a large company while staying true to their original uh, foundation and plans. So Ben and Jerry actually met in seventh grade and bonded over being called the slowest and fattest kid in gym class. So they continued being friends throughout middle school and high school, and they split once they started attending college. So Jerry went on and actually completed college, but got rejected for medical school, which led him to be a lab technician in his late 20s. When Ben left high school, he went to school for 2 semesters, dropped out, and actually became an art teacher. So in their late 20s, they were not disgruntled by their current state of life and their job. So they actually were brainstorming business ideas. Their first business idea was a bagel shop. However, they looked into what it takes to start operating a bagel shop, excuse me, and they found out the overhead and startup cost was too high. When they were looking around and thinking of other ideas, they saw an ad for Penn State offering an ice cream course for $5. They thought about it for a while and figured the overhead for the ice cream shop would cost less than the bagel shop. So in their late 20s, they went ahead and applied and took that course, which is really crazy to me to imagine that Ben and Jerry's, a nationwide brand known as having some premium ice cream, some of the highest quality ice cream you can get nationwide, learned it in their late 20s from a $5 course from Penn State. It's just insane. And actually, this photo right here is that course that they attended to show them how to make ice cream, which was really interesting to find in my research. So in 1978, Ben and Jerry decided to open up their first scoop shop in Burlington, Vermont. They had a low capital start of $12,000, and they bought most of their equipment secondhand and even made their counters homemade. By hand, which was crafted by Ben, which makes sense because he was the art teacher for a while. So they had many challenges with innovation and creating their own flavors. Ben has an anosmia. Sorry, I always pronounce that wrong. But what that does is it limits his taste and smell. So he focuses more on texture and mouth consistencies for his food. So with his condition, Jerry became the main tester, and that led him to become the first CEO for the company. And he made it up to Ben. And the funny way he made it up to Ben is he put his name first in the company's name, and that's why it's Ben and Jerry. I always thought that was a fun fact. But when creating his ice cream, he always had Ben in mind. And so he always made sure to have large swirls and big, chunky consistencies and chunky bits and really flavorful ice cream, which actually became their signature style of ice cream that helped them stand out in the market. So by the second year, they ran into a lot of money problems and were losing money. They figured that the reason they were losing so much money was they were scooping too big. And I actually worked for an ice cream shop for a while, and that was a problem I had too. I like to scoop big. I like to make people happy. So Jerry figured the only solution to this problem was to start selling his ice cream by the pint. And they created these pints in their first scoop shop and sold it by van. So in the 1980, I guess early 1980s, they figured that that van was not the greatest solution to their problems. They found that many times they were stuck in traffic and the ice cream would actually melt. So in 1981, they went and asked for a loan and rented a warehouse to produce pints, I guess more industrial size and larger quantities of pints to sell to restaurants and stores. And that first warehouse they bought is actually still operational today and currently makes Ben and Jerry's. So one of my favorite things about Ben and Jerry's is their business with a cause. They have many liberal views and social values, and these mainly developed from them growing up in Vermont in that New England area. So one of the main focuses the company has is focusing on environmental problems, social change, and also, of course, good ice cream. So other things that the company does that's really cool that benefits the employees and the community around them is the highest paid worker only gets paid 5 times what the lowest paid employee gets, which is insane for a company that large for that time at that beginning to have that big of a gap. Well, I guess not that big of a gap, but to close that gap and make sure everyone was getting paid fairly. They also took 7.5% of their pre-tax sales and they were giving it to community-funded projects through their own charity. And in 1998, Ronald Reagan presented them a U.S. Small Business Award, which was instrumental to make them a nationwide brand by the 90s. However, in the late 90s, business wasn't doing too well. And I think the main reason that caused that was Ben and Jerry's really stepped back from the business side and focused on the social activism. And their brand also was getting really large and they needed to fill that demand. And when that demand wasn't getting filled, people lost interest. So they sold to Unilever with strict rules. They can only source dairy from Vermont cows at a higher rate than the dairy market. And also, Ben and Jerry got to create their own board, controlling branding and allowing them to focus on justice issues. So, with the reflection of what I've learned with Ben and Jerry's story, was Ben and Jerry was able to create a massive company using imaginative thinking. They started with a $5 course and created a nationwide company with strong values and amazing ice cream. They overcame this status by taking failures in life and turning them around. They also showed entrepreneurial resilience by adapting to their challenges and staying aligned with their original goals. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you guys all enjoy some Ben and Jerry's ice cream tonight. Thank you guys so much.